Hello, my dear fashion friends. Welcome back to Redressing Fashion. My name is Laura Beltrán Rubio. I'm your host, and I'm also trying to become your go-to, your preferred doctor of fashion. If it wasn't already obvious from the title, this is all about fashion and fashion history, fashion theory, style, and my very own adventures as a fashion historian and style coach. Today, I want to share with you what my latest trip to Paris just last week was about. This was also my very first personal style coaching trip ever, and it was truly amazing. I had such a great time, and I also came back not just renewed but also reassured that this is definitely my calling and that I am somehow doing things right when it comes to style coaching. So let's dive right in. So, what I want to do today is actually share a bit of everything that we did on the trip, where we stayed, where we went to, what we ate. I know this is not super relevant to fashion, but the outfits are. We also went to a few exhibitions, and if you know me or if you've seen me anywhere close to art, you probably know that I have developed this tendency, or actually, it's just a part of my creative expression. It's a love for dressing in theme to whatever it is that I'm going to see. And so, of course, this was part of what I did in the trip to Paris. And we also did, very importantly, a lot of shopping because this was a style coaching trip. So I went with my best friend, who is also one of my clients, and I'm sorry to say this, but because she's my best friend and she's also so good at doing the homework that I assigned to her as a style coach, she has come to be like the epitome of my ideal client. I'm sorry with all of my other clients. I love you just as much, but the bar is very high. In any case, we went to this trip, we planned it only a couple weeks in advance, really, to celebrate my friend, her name's Shirley, celebrate her birthday. And it was an early birthday weekend trip. And also the first time, I think, in a very long time where we spent several days, just the two of us together. We, I think, are fortunate enough to see each other quite often, at least once a year. We live in different countries, different parts of the world. She lives in New York, I live in London. And so, of course, we don't see each other as much as we would like to. But considering our circumstances, I think we do see each other quite a lot. And I do see her more than I see many of my other international friends. So that's something that I'm very thankful for. So anyway, we did this trip because it was her birthday, but also because we've been working on her style. And as part of this working on her style comes what I call a shopping wish list, but it's really more of a curating of the wardrobe to complement it with pieces that you need and that you know you will wear. So they are all investment pieces, not exactly because they cost a lot of money. The price is totally irrelevant here. What I mean by an investment piece is that you buy it because you know you will use it and because you know it'll be a great addition to your wardrobe. So that was kind of the mission for this Paris trip. In addition to just having a good time, eating a lot of great food, seeing art, and just spending a lot of quality time together. And because no trip really is complete without where you stay, especially if you're like me and you need your beauty sleep, I want to start precisely with the hotel that Shirley chose for us. I had absolutely nothing to do here, but it was perfect. It was probably even better than if I had chosen it. The hotel name is Castille Paris. It's located at 33 Rue Cambon. And if you're into fashion and if you're into fashion history, this might sound a little familiar. The reason is that the historic flagship store of Chanel, where Coco herself lodged and designed and saw her clients, is located just a couple houses down the road at 31 Rue Cambon. The headquarters are now located on the other side. So we were basically sandwiched between the main flagship store and the headquarters of Chanel. And the building is actually beautiful. I've never been inside. I did kind of peek into it when we were just walking back and forth, especially on Monday morning. And I could see the most precious lobby that I've seen in quite a while. I think the only one that compares, at least in my mind or in my memory, is the Hearst headquarters in New York. On this was, I believe, near Columbus Circle somewhere, or like near, yeah, like between Columbus Circle and Bergdorf Goodman is kind of where I remember it was located. That has just a beautiful staircase with a cascading kind of wall with water. This didn't have any water, or not that I remember, but it did have a beautiful, just very large white camellia sculpture, larger than size, like larger than human size even. So just huge blown up camellia sculpture that was just breathtaking, with just white walls all around it. Maybe marble or like shiny, some sort of shiny material. Again, I only really peeked into it from afar, so I can't delve too much into the details. If you happen to walk there on a work day, especially when people are coming to work in the morning, as we did on Monday, you will probably also see many chic Chanel workers going to work at one of the top fashion companies, or most desirable fashion companies to work at, according to a recent article published by Business of Fashion. And you will, of course, also see a lot of Chanel bags and other Chanel accessories worn by its staff. So it's actually a great place to go to, not just the store, but the headquarters, or just that street, honestly, on a workday. Such a treat for the eye. The hotel itself, probably because it recognizes its history in Coco's, stomping grounds, does have a suite dedicated to Coco Chanel. I think it's called like the Parisian suite or something like that. I'm not really sure. It is, or so we were told, decorated in black and white. Again, a homage to Chanel and the branding of Chanel. We, however, chose not to stay in that suite and instead opted for a balcony. And the balcony was actually a beautiful decision, or at least for me, because if you know me, you know that I love spending time outdoors, just breathing fresh air, whether it is when I'm drinking my morning coffee or reading or just thinking about life, gossiping with my friends, of course. And the balcony actually also ended up being quite a good kind of office, or partial office, for the couple of meetings and calls that we had to take during the time that we were in there. I want to show you a photo because it is a tiny Parisian balcony. If you've ever seen one, you probably know what I mean. But it was just perfect. And as I mentioned, this is me being very silly, but I did spend quite a while just reading there mostly, and yeah, just chatting with Shirley. So, anyway, that's the balcony. That's where we stayed. Castille, Paris. This is absolutely not paid at all. I'm just sharing with you what we saw, what we did. Where we ate, I think, is the next part. And it is really hard not to qualify just every single meal that we had as my favorite, because I do love French food. And we had a lot of things that I also don't normally eat, not just because London is different, although I must say that London has a great restaurant scene, but mostly because I think I tend to lean into the more plant based diet when I'm on my own. And also, I cook a lot. I love cooking and I love what I make. So, I really don't go out as much as I did in Paris. I very rarely eat every single meal outside. So this was kind of a change in pace. What we did was take every breakfast at the hotel restaurant that also has a beautiful patio. I think it's technically Italian inspired. But to me, it felt very like Louis the 15th, 16th kind of aesthetic. I mean, inspired by it. Of course, it is all the more recently made. It was a beautiful space. It also had a fountain. It was outdoors, everything that I would want for a breakfast. And it was also just easy to wake up, get ready, have breakfast at the hotel, and then from there, just go into our daily, I guess, shenanigans. One of the things that Shirley and I have been doing since we became really good friends, we had known each other before this, but in my mind, what consolidated our friendship was a trip to Italy almost, I don't know, like 13, 14 years ago. It was a very long time. We were trying to do the math while we were in Paris, actually. And I think this tradition started there, and is that we share everything that we get because we always want to try more things in the menu, or as many things as we can. So we order as many things as we know that we can eat. I am not a believer in throwing away food, so I try to limit the quantity to things that I know I will be able to eat, or like my party will be able to eat. But we do share a lot of things, and that's exactly what we did here. The first meal we had was kind of a late lunch on the day that we arrived. This was a Friday at Le Con Café at Le Con Palais, where we were going to see the first of the exhibitions that we had in mind. I will say that even if it was very convenient, the real reason why we chose Le Con Café was that we were very much influenced by a social media post where we saw a beautiful and gigantic affogato, and we were like, okay, we need to go get that. So to make things easier for everyone, we just went, had lunch there. And of course, we had the gigantic affogato after. We had lots of shellfish, definitely influenced, not even by Shirley, but by her husband. We had that in his honor. That was our very first meal. So this is a picture of the meal, and you will be able to see better quality of these photos. Sorry, no, there's a bit of a reflection here. In the website, I will link it to the show notes. We also had, here's Shirl with her giant avocado. We also had an artichoke salad that was mostly cheese, and it was absolutely delicious. I would qualify that as my favorite dish of this shared meal. But also, the most beautiful thing about this is the view of the balcony. The interiors are also amazing, and we were actually inside, which was kind of nice because it was a little bit hot on that day. And so we were kind of protected from the heat and the sun, but we were just in front of this door to the balcony. So we kind of had the best of both worlds, the interiors and the balcony. Here's a view of the interiors. It's just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. After this, we went to see the Matisse exhibition, which is beautiful. I was method dressing for it as I normally do. So thinking about Matisse as a just amazing colorist, and his work, especially with like paper cuts and color cuts, that's what the exhibition at Le Grand Palais celebrated. I chose to dress precisely in primary colors and like color, not cutting, but like color blocking. I was trying to recall a little bit of his work. This is the outfit. So you can see it has blue, yellow, and red, the primary colors. It has a bit of color blocking, especially in the trousers. And the blouse, I think, is where I tried to recall a little bit the color cutting or the figure cutting that he did. Let me show you a picture just for reference so you can see what I was kind of being inspired by. It's this kind of work that I was trying to recall. And there's actually a picture of me with one of these works here. I would say that the conversation between my outfit and Matisse's work was actually kind of successful, at least somehow. I know the lighting is not great because, well, museum exhibitions, but I think you can see it here, how the conversation was kind of going. I was very, very proud of this outfit. I was very happy that it worked out. I was very happy to have been able to take just that photo of me while we were there. After we went to the exhibition, we needed a bit of a break, especially Shirley. She had flown from New York on that morning, It was an overnight flight. She was exhausted, so we went back to the hotel. I read in the balcony for a little while, but after that, I went to Galignani. That's one of my favorite bookshops in Paris. I think it's known to be the first English language bookshop in Paris, which is not the reason I go there. The main reason I go there is because they have a huge selection of fashion and design and art history books, many of them in French, many of them not always available in my usual bookshops, either in the US or here in London. And so I like to go there to kind of scout what's new. And in my scouting of things that are new, I managed to catch two books that are not mine or by me, or I have nothing to do with any of these books, but they are the work of two people, two scholars whose work I really admire. And I've actually seen kind of bits and pieces of these two books at different places. One of them really just came out, and I think the official release date was the 23rd of July. I saw it at the bookstore a couple days earlier, which is one of the reasons why I love going to bookstores, because they tend to have the books before they go out online, but I had already pre-ordered mine, so that's why I didn't buy it. And it's Sarah Bendel's The Women Who Clothed the Stuart Queens, which I actually have somewhere in here. You might see it. Yeah, it's just here. We'll have to talk more about it at some other point. And the other book is this The Art of the Parisian Chic by Justine de Jong, who was part of a writing club that I was also part of. And I don't think I read, maybe we read one of the chapters in this book. I'm not really sure. Maybe it was a proposal, but I did know a little bit about this book before that. And the last thing I found here was this little booklet by Sem, or Sem. I call him Sem. It's the pen name of an amazing caricaturist of the early 20th century. And you can see the caricature there. They are amazing. I love him. I cataloged a few works by him when I was working at the Met Museum. And since I've been obsessed, and so just seeing them all together in the same little shelf made me so, so, so happy. This was also a record-breaking visit to Galignani and to Paris in general, because I bought the grand total of 0 books for the first time in my life, which is unbelievable and crazy, and probably means that I have to go back and get a book next time or two. For dinner on that very first night, because we had such a late lunch and huge and filling lunch, we ended up just going to a little wine bar called Mon Square, and we just had wine, a couple snacks, not a lot. Came back to the hotel to see some piano playing, which was very, very on point, because just the week before I had had a conversation with someone about wanting to play piano again. I grew up playing piano. I haven't done it in years, probably like a decade or so. But playing piano was my entire personality when I was a kid. Playing piano and riding horses. I think those were my two things. And coming back to the hotel and seeing this was like, I do need to get back to piano. I just moved, which explains the new setting and also the empty space. I do have a full empty space over there because I still don't have a sofa, a couch. And I'm honestly debating if I should maybe skip the couch and get a piano instead. We will see. Anyway, this is what we came back to the hotel to. Lovely, lovely. And after that, I think we spent a little while in the balcony, went to sleep, slept like babies, because on Saturday, day number 2, we were going on our first shopping session. So, style coaching is what I call it. But in Paris, what we were actually doing is more like personal shopping. So, we were going to a selection of shops that I planned in advance to find pieces that we have been identifying over the past few weeks, or actually couple months, that surely needs to complement her wardrobe in a way that helps her express her style essence and that helps her just embody her best self and bring her truest, most authentic personality to everything she does with how she dresses. So we had breakfast at the hotel. Then we actually went on a little side quest excursion to learn to clip our hairs with the French clip, French trident rather. I should have worn that today because I'm very proud with how it looks. And I'm actually just going to show you a picture because this, I think, is the best French twist I've been able to do so far. Very, very proud of it. It is a huge learning curve, but we're getting there. After that, we walked through Place Vendôme, which is basically the world's epicenter of jewelry. It's one of my favorite places in London. As the daughter of a jewelry designer, as a jewelry historian myself, with a very strong interest in the history of jewelry and jewelry houses. And we went specifically to a store that I've been wanting to go to since, I don't know, for many years. And for whatever reason, I've never been kind of brave enough to go. So when I mentioned it to Shirley, she was like, we have to go there. I also want to see some pieces. So we went there. The house is called Melerio. And as you can see here, it was founded, or it exists since 1613. The house per se, I don't think was founded there, but the first jeweler in this long lineage of jewelers, all belonging to the same family, I think it's somewhere like 14 generations or something like that, was already creating jewelry for Marais de Medici in the 17th century. He was an Italian jeweler, probably also explains what he was creating jewelry for, like the Italian, I guess, Queen of France, Marie de Medici. And after him, subsequent generations of Melerios designed for Marie Antoinette, for the Empresses Josephine and Eugenie, for modern royals even. And the house is just beautiful. And one of the beautiful things that they do is that they draw from the historical pieces to create their new pieces. And one of them in particular is this brooch that was famously made for Empress Eugenie in, I think it was 1868, has been reworked into new pieces. Most specifically, this pendant, which has basically a miniature version of that same ostrich feather motif. So that's great. We also got to try other things. We got to learn more about Melerio cut for gemstones, which is patented. And so it's an egg-shaped form, an egg-shaped cut. It looks similar to a novel, but when you look it up close, you can see that one of the sides is slightly narrower, so like an egg shape. And it's patented apparently by Melerio, and it's super special. It looks beautiful. It elongates the fingers quite a lot. I love it. I hope that next time I'm back in Paris and back in Melerio, I can buy this ring and also visit the archives, because that would be the most extreme treat. I skipped the most important part about this jewelry or jewelry brand, and it's that I found out about it back when I was at the Met again, because I had to catalog a little album with French Second Empire, so like 1850s-ish, designs for jewelry by one of the Melerios. I think it was Felix. There were two brothers, and one of them was Felix, or Felix was the father? I can't remember. Anyway, I should have gone and read my own catalog entries before coming here and improvising. But you know what my deal is. The point here is that I fell in love with this family of jewelers when I was a baby art historian, cataloging at the Met, works on paper for design, which included a lot of jewelry. And I don't think I realized that the brand was still running until years later. And now I finally went into the store, and it's beautiful and everyone should visit it. From here, we went to Le Voltaire for a slightly lighter lunch than the day before. We shared escargot and two salads. pictured here. I particularly liked this salad. The other one was just like a frisee salad, normal kind of like Cobb-ish salad, French version. But the one on top was grapefruit with avocado with a mustard dressing. That was actually really, really refreshing, really nice. I might need to attempt to do this myself at some point. And from here, we were very conveniently going to some of the stores on Rive Gauche, especially María de la Orden. It is a Spanish brand. It is, I think, kind of a strange brand to work with because I think it has a very, very particular aesthetic, which is something that I love in a brand, but which can make it difficult to use for a client. And especially when the client's taste is so different to mine, which is one of the things that challenges me the most, but that I love the most about dressing Shirley. Our styles are just completely different, but I guess that's the job of a stylist, is to understand your people and dressing them for who they are. So that's a beautiful exercise. And I decided to go to María de la Orden knowing that it's the kind of brand that I would wear myself most, not necessarily thinking that Shirley would have a lot to wear from there. I had pre-selected some linen trousers. That's one of the pieces of clothing that we're trying to find for her. And I think there were some shorts, like more formal shorts for the summer as well. But we ended up finding a beautiful silk set that she actually wore for her real birthday celebration, not with me, but back in New York with her husband. I have pictures of those, but I don't have them here. I also don't have permission to share them, so I won't right now. But it's a beautiful yellow silk set that just looks beautiful on her. I will say that I had to push her to wear the yellow because she was hesitant. I am the colorful one here, she is not. But this color just looked so beautiful on her that I'm so glad I managed to convince her to take it. I think I went on the grounds of this is silk, this is the halter neck top, which you love. The skirt was kind of like flowy, which is another essential to her style, her wardrobe. So it had all of the components. The only thing that maybe not so much was the yellow, but I think it was a perfect shade of yellow. And she looked stunning in it. And she did send a text. My phone is back there, I'm seeing it, so I'm not going to grab it right now, but the text said something along the lines of thank you for pushing me to embrace a bolder color. It does look beautiful on her. Maybe I'll have to share a photo of her once I ask permission for that. From there, we went to Le Grand Magasin, specifically to Galeries Lafayette. I am not a big fan of huge department stores because I don't love crowds, but we wanted to go to Jimmy Fairley and they have a store there. So we did that. I also wanted to see some handbags because we were on a mission to source handbags for our mothers. And so I thought that that could be a good place to do that. And then also to see some maybe French brands that we weren't acquainted with. We didn't really find much there. I think it was too busy and we ended up just running away, not before stopping to see or take in the beautiful glass ceiling and just the design of the place. Like, you know why people went here to just hang out, because it was, or it is, stunning. And back in the day when it was first founded 200 years ago, you can only imagine really how amazing this would have been. From there, we went back to our hotel, refreshed for a little bit, changed, and then we went to dinner. This is the only photo that I have of us that night. I don't know why we didn't think of taking any photos. So I was wearing this blue, like midnight blue linen jumpsuit that I love. I've worn it for a wedding and for more special occasions. This was just a nice dinner outfit, but it was pretty good to wear it for that. And then she wore the red silk dress. Dinner was absolutely delicious. We had the ceviche on a sort of lobster biscuit sauce slash soup, and a steak on massaman sauce, which was absolutely amazing, amazing, delicious, delicious. And then, of course, dessert. It was this kind of lemon bar with crème anglaise and with some lemon oil drops. It was just beautiful. And thyme, the mix of flavors, this was absolutely spectacular. I think this was probably my favorite meal of them all while we were in Paris. The next day, we woke up again, had breakfast at the hotel. We say that we invented, but we cannot be the first people to do this, mimosas with grapefruit juice. This is me having sort of a half mimosa, half grapefruit mimosa at the hotel. And I was dressed for the exhibition that we were going to see this day, which is Calder. And the earrings here are actually inspired by Calder's mobile sculptures. The jewelry designer Paula Mendoza, I used to work for her, and these earrings I got when I was working for her were like literally inspired by Calder. So of course I had to wear them to the exhibition. And then I thought that the striped top was a good match for both my earrings and I think Calder in general. So that's why what I wore. And I have another photo of me alongside one of the mobiles where you can see kind of the conversation between the two pieces. The photo, the angle is kind of difficult to see, but you can see there the two. And this was also red dots on the sculpture, so this was perfect. I will call it another success in method dressing for art exhibitions. I think this was just truly a full success. Before getting to Calder, though, we had a second personal shopping or style coaching trip. This time we went to Le Marais, and at Le Marais we went to several different stores. One of them was Sœur, where we got a beautiful silky, or actually it's like satin, like textured satin skirt for Shirley. This is the kind of skirt that I'm saying it's just her thing. She is so happy and so confident and so empowered and expressive when she wears these skirts that we are just trying to bring some more into her wardrobe that she can wear with different things. I think the main thing for this one in particular were the textures. It has a sort of double texture and the color, of course. And the fabric, it is a satin, but it's kind of a thicker one, so I think it's very good for different seasons, which is one of the things that I try to encourage, to wear your clothes year round as much as you can. I know that for some styles it's not as easy, but I do encourage people to wear your clothes just year round. That's essential. So we bought that. We also were trying to go to Bobby's to get shoes, but on our way there, we stumbled on Yonac. That's a French brand. It's B Corp certified, so like ethical, sustainable fashion. We both bought the same pair of sandals, which I'm actually wearing today. So sorry for my acrobatics, but you can see it there. I wanted to actually show a photo of us because I think this is also a pure demonstration of personal style. You wear the same shoes, and you don't have to, but if you do, like, I think each person has their own language, and I think this is kind of what we were doing here. Try to create a sort of conversation between our clothes, but each with her own style, and I think we achieved it. Both felt super comfortable and happy and easy in our clothes. We also went to Le Maire. That's a French brand, kind of inspired by traditional French craftsmanship and Japanese craftsmanship. It's quite elegant, but I wouldn't say in a very classic way, or not necessarily in a classic way. It is timeless. It's also kind of genderless. It's a beautiful brand. I think very prone to inspire intentional purchases. We ended up not buying anything here. There's some trousers that we love but put on hold because we wanted to prioritize other things. I do have a link for the trousers and most of the things that I've shown you so far. So please, if you're interested, go into the show notes and the website because that's where everything is linked. If you're interested in taking a closer look, looking at images, because I know that I haven't shown everything. And yeah. After Calder, we had dessert at Fondation Louis Vuitton. It was a sort of decomposed or destructured, I don't even know how to call it, berry tart. It was really nice. We wanted ice cream, ended up having this, and nobody regretted it. And then we finished our shopping spree in Chanel, where we bought one of the classic models of the Chanel bag, but in burgundy, which is apparently their color. There's no picture of the bag here, just us shopping. Apparently, burgundy is a color of the season in Chanel. They actually have a lot of their summer pieces with burgundy, but especially I think their pre-fall and especially their Métier d'Art collection has a lot of burgundy. I personally think that burgundy is a neutral and should be used more, exploited more by brands. So I do hope that Chanel keeps this shade in their classic pieces. For our last dinner of the trip, we went to Recoin. That's a tiny little restaurant. I'm not really sure where it is. It is near Saint Denis, maybe. I think I'm getting the places kind of all mixed up in my mind. But anyway, we had the most spectacular duck magret, or marais de canard is how I call it in my mind. Sorry, with dates and with like tandoori infused oil. That was just absolutely spectacular. I love duck. I don't eat it enough. I think I eat duck like once a year, but I love it. I love dates. This was my dream. And then after that, just like quail, chicken, I believe, with berries, everything was delicious. The wine was also delicious. But honestly, my favorite was the duck, I will say. I probably won't eat duck for another year, but it was delicious. After that, we had to walk down some of the food that we had, and we ended up going to Place des Vosges. It was quite near the restaurant, and one of my favorite places where I also have so many good memories. I have really good memories of doing picnics at Place des Vosges when I was studying abroad in Paris a million years ago. I have really good memories there of going to buying appointments during Fashion Week when I was a fashion buyer in another past life. I have really good memories of being there with one of my good friends from college when we were just like talking about our PhDs and suffering through our PhDs, really. So going back in this new chapter, like yet another new chapter of my life, I think was beautiful. And the moon was just rising just above the houses. And it was just so nice. I have a silly little video of me just frolicking in Plaza Rouge with the moon, of course. And I think there's a photo. It was dark, but you can see me and you can see the moon just shining above. It was beautiful. It was really a beautiful last evening together. And so our trip came to an end. On the last day, we had once more breakfast at the hotel with a grapefruit mimosa. I tried not to cry when I bid farewell to Shirley because she left before I did. And then I ran away to Palais Tokyo for one final exhibition. This was one that I don't think I even realized was on until we got there, and we just saw ads for it everywhere. And so I decided that I was going to go on the very last day possible because it was closing on that day that I went. And it ended up being quite a nice exhibition, very commercial, like shamelessly commercial, But it was quite nice. It's on Pomellato. It was presenting Pomellato, the Italian jeweler, as this revolutionary jeweler who basically invented, on one side, like sculptural jewelry, but on the other side, kind of empowered women to wear jewelry just because they wanted to, not because someone had given it to them, and helped women just get into a better habit of buying their own jewels. This is something that's not new to the 1960s or 70s or whenever Pomellato started designing. This has been happening for a longer time. It's a reductive story, but at the same time, his jewels are beautiful and they were very much embraced by a lot of young independent women who were very visible in the public eye, especially during the 70s, the 80s. He worked with fashion photographers. He really leaned into the fashion aspects of jewelry, even though his jewelry is very much high jewelry and fine jewelry, instead of it being the more kind of fashionable, low cost custom jewelry. Many of his pieces were, of course, on view. Many of the collaborations with fashion photographers were on view, which included Helmut Newton. And this is, I think, my favorite photo taken precisely by Helmut Newton for Pomellato, for a Pomellato ad. But I think my favorite part was, it was sort of an installation with mirrors, and it has this kind of undulating thing, golden thing that recalls really a Pomellato bracelet. So in a way, it was like going into, or that's the visual comparison that I made in my mind, going inside one of Pomellato's jewels. And then at the end, you would find a beautiful chain, like diamond chain. That's one of his classical designs, I would say. It's like the centerpiece of the exhibition. I think here you can get a sense of what that was. And then the piece at the end of it was this one. So, yes, a spectacular piece. But I think what I liked the most really was the installation, like this whole kind of gallery space with the mirrors and the giant bracelet, so to speak. It was beautiful. And well, one of the reasons I say it was very commercial is that, well, of course, there were ads everywhere. It was actually sponsored by Pomellato, probably commissioned by Pomellato, actually, because even the tickets you would buy on Pomellato website, not even the Palais de Tokyo website. And then at the end, it had this little note that says, "Your Pomellato journey continues at our Paris boutique. We look forward to welcoming you to explore the Maison's world up close, where bold creations, exceptional craftsmanship, and distinctive Milanese elegance await." And it has, of course, the address for the boutique. Funnily enough, and this was not planned, as I strolled back to the hotel after seeing the exhibition, I ended up walking down Rue Saint Honoré, where the Pomellato boutique is. So I did not go in, but I did kind of complete the expected journey of exhibition goers. And I did take another little video of the storefront, which was publicizing the exhibition. I'm sure they took this down probably right after I walked past, because this was the last day that the exhibition was on. But it was really interesting to see that. And you know, it's kind of funny, and I'm laughing because I think I'm laughing at myself. This is a constant conversation that, as a fashion historian and especially as a fashion curator, I have with colleagues and with myself and with people in different parts of the arts and fashion world. And it's, how commercial do we want our exhibitions to be? Because often, sadly, museums don't have the resources themselves to pay for an exhibition, to pay for the labor. Well, the labor is often not paid, or very, very miserably paid. One of the reasons why I exited the field, and I continue to have frustrations about that, but we're not going to talk about it right now. And the actual installation, the care for the pieces, there's insurance costs that have to be paid. There's object care costs. So for their restoration, for their preservation, for their cleaning, for the preparation, the mounting, everything. fashion exhibitions are very, very, very costly. And usually the cultural institutions themselves don't have the money to produce them. And so, where do we get the money to do that? Well, from external people, from external sponsors. And many times the brands are some of those sponsors. But then, of course, if the brand is involved, then that means that the actual message can be affected. And that is seen as something that is unethical. And yes, you don't want the brand to affect your storytelling so much that you basically stop engaging critically with design, with the brand, with the objects themselves. And so, it's a difficult place to be at. It's a difficult line to walk, but in the end, I think as much as this Pomellato exhibition was very much celebrating all of Pomellato, I think, or maybe this is my ignorance of this brand in particular, I think it ended up being well accomplished. And the fact that at the end they were like, please go to our shop, I think is what wrapped it all up for me. Because it's like, yeah, they're not pretending that the brand is not involved. They're not pretending that this is just an intellectual piece, because it's never just that. I'm not really sure how I feel about it. I think I laugh because I don't know how to feel. But it was an interesting piece of food for thought. And I think I'm just going to leave it there because this is not about fashion curation or jewelry curation or design curation. We can get back to it at some other point. And then the last thing I did in my Paris trip was go to Angelina, which is one of my favorite places. It's funny because I say that I don't have a huge sweet tooth, but every time I go to Paris, I have an Angelina hot chocolate, which is the sweetest thing in the world. So I guess maybe that's why I don't have a sweet tooth. I just go there, have this chocolate bomb, basically, and then I can't have sugar for another year or a few months, however long it takes me to go back to Paris. Anyway, I first started going to Angelina when I was studying abroad in Paris. I think that was like 2008 or something. I convinced my family that I had to study abroad in France to be able to write a successful extended essay in French literature. That's actually where my journey in fashion history began, believe it or not, because I wrote about Émile Zola and wow, the Lady's Paradise, is that what it's called in English? And how women were represented in relation to fashion, and how modernity also inevitably revolved around new attitudes towards fashion and towards femininity. I don't think I had thought about that extended essay in a very long time. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's like I know how I got here now. It took me a very long time. It was a very long and windy road, but here we are. Anyway, I digress. I started going to Angelina back then, and my kind of tradition is to go back and write. I would always write there and just like ideate stuff there. Sometimes study. When I was studying abroad there, I would just go and study there with my little hot chocolate. This time I didn't really sit in. I decided to take my chocolate with me and went actually to Tuileries. This is me actually walking past Carignano, which I mentioned a few minutes ago. I took it with me and I sat at Tuileries. You may have seen a video that I published with my hot takes from the trip, which I recorded, I think, towards the end of it. But what I ended up doing was just walking there, sitting down, crying. I did cry a lot because this trip was very successful. I was very happy with the result as a style coaching trip. I reconfirmed, I think that as scary as this huge pivot in my life has been, stepping away from academia, not from fashion history, but stepping away from academia and starting to do new things and applying my knowledge of fashion on something new, it has been really rewarding. And I think the more I do it and the more I think about it, the more I know that this is really what I am meant to do, at least in this chapter of my life. And I hope it is a long and fruitful chapter. That's what I'm working for it to be. So I cried in gratitude. I also cried missing my family. After I returned to Colombia from studying abroad in Paris. And whenever I went back to Paris with my mom and my sister, I took them to Angelina, of course. My sister, she does have a huge sweet tooth. So Angelina became her favorite as well. And it has become our tradition that every time we're in Paris together, we go to Angelina together as well and have, well, I have the hot chocolate. I think she probably tastes like every single dessert that she can there. So she's constantly rotating, trying something new. And then this time she wasn't there, which isn't sad in itself, but she has also had some acute health issues lately. And it was her birthday just the week before I went to Paris, or just the day really before I went to Paris. And of course, being there, thinking about her and her health, and really wishing very badly that she gets better and that she can go to Paris with me again, I think was a little, yeah, just heavy. And it is feeling a little heavy again. But I am hoping that we are able to go back to Paris. I am hoping that I will be able to go back to Paris as well as a personal style coach with some other new clients. And I'm hoping that I can actually make it back before November so I can see an exhibition at the Musée des Arts Décoratifs on Thai royal style, which I didn't get to see on this trip because we didn't get to squeeze it in, but maybe next time. In any case, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for listening to a very long episode of all of our adventures in Paris. I hope you enjoyed. If you know any of the places that I mentioned and you've been there, or if you don't and you happen to be inspired to visit them after listening to this podcast, please, please, please let me know. You know, I love hearing from you. And if you would like some style coaching, and specifically what I do the most are luxury fashion experiences here in London. It's a combination of fashion history and shopping, personal shopping here in London. Please do reach out. I still have a few slots available for August, so please contact me. I'm leaving the link in the show notes so you can schedule your experience. And if not, I will see you again next week. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you very soon. Bye bye.